Okay, today we're in lesson 2.2. We're adding and subtracting decimals. This is a lesson that in many ways is going to be a review for you guys. But then we're actually going to learn a couple concepts that might actually be a little new. All right, so in example 1, we are adding and subtracting decimals. And you'll see that they're written horizontally, but I want you to write them vertically. So go ahead and write the first, how you think. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit of review. I just want to see if you remember how to do it. Write how you think you should add the first two numbers. All right, so let's see. So we're going to write it, let's say 6 and 47 thousandths plus, let's see, 13 and 46 hundredths, right? Wait, why not? I lined up my numbers, my 7 and my 6, I lined them up, my 4s. What did I do wrong, Alexis? I've got to line up my decimal, okay? So I don't line up my numbers. I actually need to line up my decimal, all right? So it needs to look like this. I line up my decimal. And why do I have a 0 there in purple? Why do I have that 0 there, Alexis? Yeah, so I'm going to use a 0 as a placeholder. Now, when I'm adding, it doesn't matter as much as when I'm subtracting. When I'm subtracting, it could change my answer. So it's just a good practice to go ahead and just fill in those place values with zeros. Okay, so now that we have our decimals lined up, we just add it up. And we get our answer. The adding part, guys, that should be pretty easy. We need to carry our 1 if we ever add and it's greater than 10. It's actually going to bump up the next place value by 1. But other than that, it's just, honestly, the hardest part is just setting it up correctly. Lining up your decimals, putting in your zeros as placeholders. So now let's look at the next problem. We have 9 minus 5 and 28 hundredths. All right, so 9 minus 5 and 28 hundredths. All right, now where does my decimal go in the 9? Where does it go? Before the 9, after the 9, where does it go? It goes after the 9, after the 1's place. All right, so now I'm ready to subtract, right? And I just bring down my 28, and I get 4 and 28 hundredths. What mistake did I just make here? What mistake did I make, Emmanuel?
You can add 2 zeros.
Okay, I don't have my 0 placeholders. This is a very common mistake. I get students every year. They think I just bring down this 28 hundredths because there's nothing there. But I need my 0 placeholders. If I don't remember my 0 placeholders, it actually changes my answer. It should be 9 minus 5 and 28 hundredths. Now that I have my 0 placeholders, I can clearly see that I'm subtracting 0 minus 8. Can I do 0 minus 8? No, not without it being negative. So what I need to do is, I need to, what's that B word? Borrow. Borrow from the 9. Make it an 8. What happens to my first 0? It becomes a 9 because I've got to borrow again to make the first 0 a 10. And now I can just subtract. All right, so borrowing 0 placeholders are very, very important. You guys remember that? You remember that from learning it before? Okay, so hopefully it's just a refresher and it helps you guys remember. All right, so I want you to do the third one now. What is 14 minus 8 and 42 hundredths? Make sure you're lining up your decimals and including your zeros as placeholders. Okay, so 14 minus 8 and 42 hundredths. What did I forget? I have my decimal and my zeros. Now I know that I need to borrow, make the 4 a 3, make that first 0 a 9 because I have to borrow again to make it a 10. I subtract across, but now what problem do I have? I've got 3 minus 8, can't do that, so what do I need to do? Borrow from the 1, make it a 0, make it a 13, and it's 5 and 58 hundredths. Who got it right? Raise your hand. All right, good job, guys. Any questions? Maybe if you missed something, any questions about what you did wrong? Anything at all? All right, moving on to example 2. Okay, now in example 2, you've got a variable expression. I want you to write down this expression. 6 7/10 plus r minus t. Write it on your paper. Someone raise your hand. What operations, remember we have 4 of them, what operations do you see here? What operations? Deja?
Adding and subtracting.
Yep, adding and subtracting. So they are different operations. Now, if you're only adding or only subtracting, you can do it all in one step. But because I have addition and subtraction, I'm going to break it up into 2 steps. So I want you to substitute in the value. You're going to have 6 7/10 plus 2 1400. Fill in your 0 placeholder and go ahead and add that. Okay, so because I have different operations, I'm going to do this one step at a time. I'm going to add first and then I will subtract. All right, so I made my substitution for r. I need to add them together. What do I get, class? 8 and 8400. Now I use that number. I use 8 and 8400, and what do I subtract it by? 5, what? How do I say it? 5 and 2/10. What do I need after the 2? 0 placeholder, and then I can subtract. All right, do you see why we broke it up into 2 steps? Okay, because I had addition and subtraction. So I did my addition first, I used that answer, and then I subtracted. All right, got it? Okay. Any questions so far? You think you can do one? All right, so I want you to solve this one. Okay, so we do our substitution, 10 and 300ths, and we subtract 4 and 2/10 first. Fill in that 0. Okay, we got to do a lot of borrowing. We get 5 and 8300ths. Who got that part? Anybody get that far? Good. Okay, then we bring that answer over and we do our addition and we get 12 and 1/10. Okay, now technically I do not need this last 0 there. It doesn't change my answer, so if you have it, great. If you don't, that's fine too. Okay, 12 and 1/10 is my answer. Don't need zeros at the end of a decimal. That does not affect my answer. With front-end estimation, I am rounding to the, read it with me, to the what? To the leading digit. To the leading digit. What does that mean? That means the very first number in my number, the very first digit in my number. So I'm looking to round to the leading place value. So here, place value is important. So on the first one, what place value is the 4 in? What place value? Don't daydream, mommy. What place value? The 10,000s. So I'm rounding to the nearest 10,000. How do I know what to round to? I need to look at the next digit. So the next digit after a 4 is a 3. So that means that I keep it. Is it going to be 40,000 or 50,000? It's going to be 40,000 because the 3 keeps the 4 the same and I fill in zeros after it. All right. So I round it to 40,000. I want you to try to round 15,789 to the leading digit. So use front-end estimation to round that number. All right, so 15,000 rounded to 20,000. Okay, because the 5 rounds the 1 up. And what about 894? What's that going to be if I round to the leading digit, Emmanuel? 900. Okay, 900. So here's how it applies. On your homework, you're going to be asked to estimate the sum using front-end estimation. And here's what it means. Round each individual number to the leading digit and then add them together. Okay? So $8.79, if I round using leading digit, what is it going to be? What's it going to be, Deja? $9. What about the second number? Everybody together. What's my second number going to be? $7. What about my third number? Everybody. $8. Very good. And when I add them all together, I get $24. On this section of your homework, if you give me an exact answer, that is wrong. okay? Because the directions are asking you to use front-end estimation. So you've got to do it that way. All right? Everybody got it? Okay, so a couple more things that we need to go over. We have this number here, and you've got a homework problem tonight, so I wanted to go over one in the lesson where it says to write this number in expanded form. Write the number in expanded form. Okay, so what it means is it means to take each digit, starting with the leading digit, and to write it in its as its value in its place. Okay, in its placeholder. So the 4 is in what place? The hundreds place. So you're going to write 400. The 6 is in the tens place. So you're going to write 60. The 7 is in the ones place. So you're going to write 7. The 3 is in the, what guys? Tenths place. So you're going to write it as a tenth. The 8 is in the hundredths place, so you write it as a hundredth. And then, think you can take a guess at the last one? It's going to be written in the thousandths place. And this is how I write a number in expanded form. And guess what? If I add them all together, it's going to be this number up here, 467 and 381 thousandths. All right, so I'm just breaking it down by place value. Does that make sense? Okay, so number 8 is just like that on your homework. So you should know how to do it now. All right, last thing I want to cover. What if I ask you to round to the leading digit for this number? 87 hundredths. What is my leading digit? Blake? Yeah, it's still the 0, so I'm going to round it up to 1. Okay, so that'll help you on your homework tonight. When you're estimating. The estimating is optional on your homework tonight, but if you do it, you'll receive 5 points bonus on your homework grade. All right, and if you understand that, that's everything you need to know for 2.2.